And welcome back to the longest repair odyssey in the known history. I have made yet again some progress. I sure hope it's for good. I mean, it's not just an illusion. So what I did behind the scenes. Well, I took the camera to work with me. Now, for context, in my usual life, in my day job, I am a dentist. Okay, so I have access to all sorts of tools and stuff related to dentistry, obviously. One of those tools is handpiece that is used to remove crowns from the teeth. And what it is, well, it's a little claw or hook, something like, well, actually it depends. It can have a tip that is something like this. So basically this the tip of the hook grabs the edge of the crown, or it can have a tip like a bigger hook like this that you can pass in between the teeth of a bridge, or it can have a lasso, or it doesn't matter, various tips for that handpiece. And what that handpiece does is it transforms pneumatic pressure into how can I explain this? I don't have the terms in English. It's like an impact driver. Okay, an impact driver, when you hit it, it pushes down and rotates, right? Well, in this case, when you push on the pedal, so when you press the pedal, it gives short impulses. So you basically, I dropped something. Just trash. Okay, you basically cling to the tooth, to the crown, and then it will give impacts like this, short impacts, as long as you keep the pedal pressed. And those impacts will break the bond of the cement and the crown will debond, and that's basically the story. Why I thought it was a good idea? Well, because one of the hooks, the larger one, I could get it through this hole. So this is the area where the damage to this metal plate was. So I thought I could get it through this hole, pull on the handpiece and start banging. And I hoped that it would unbend the plate. Well, it did not unbend the plate, and kind of makes sense, because if that handpiece would have so much force, I would probably pull people's teeth out of their mouths. So that was a failed attempt. Then I tried to use the actual end, so the other end of a silicone gun. So normally, if you want to use like a tube of silicone, you need a gun, right? You get this in that gun, and it has a long shaft with a plate in the end, at the end of the shaft, and you pull on the trigger, and that shaft goes further and further inside the tube. Okay. The other end of the shaft, in my case, was bent like this. So it had the 90 degrees bend. And the gun itself also had a lock, or a latch, okay, that would prevent the shaft from going back. And I thought that if I could take the shaft all the way to the front of the gun, then the bend part of it would go close enough to the latch that if I would be able to get something in between the two, that thing would be pressed and therefore it could be straightened. It almost worked, but it didn't. And then, because hell, what do I have to lose? I just took a screwdriver, I got it through the hole, and I tried to use it as a leverage to slowly unbend this area, which kind of happened, at least partially, but I expected that I wouldn't need a lot to have the desired effect. Obviously, the unwanted effect was that by doing this, I bent this part inwards. Obviously, it's the same material, so it won't flex on only on one end of the applied force. It would bend also on the fulcrum, on the tipping point. So I got one thing somewhat straight, but got another thing a little bent. Therefore, I decided to unbend it, and I went like this, slowly, until I kind of unbent it. And then I polished the insides, so the inner part of these rails, as much as I could, but I probably still have some areas where I should deburr the surface. And I can actually use this old Gracie curette, because this one has a somewhat sharp edge. It used to have a sharp edge. Okay, I'm going quite slowly and easily because I don't want to create more of a mess than I already have. The idea is that at some point this arm would hang. Okay, running smoothly again. But this entire operation did not fix the problem. So the camera would still spit out the dark slide and one of the frames. So my next idea was to actually adjust the pick arm. Now the pick arm, which you cannot see, let me get the other body. Okay, so on the gear train side, you have this. Now this is the outer side of the pick arm. So you have this part, and connected to this part, I mean through this slot, this piece goes inside the camera, and it has this. So this flexible thing is the pick arm. At the end of this thing there's a little hook, and every time this thing goes like this, I don't know if you can see, it grabs one picture and spits it out. Spits it out, yes, I pronounced it correctly. So basically you get the cartridge inside, and when this thing moves forward, it should spit the image out. Now obviously something went wrong. I could use that. So let's go again. You push forward, I mean the pick arm goes forward, and see, in this case it pushed outwards or forwards both one picture and the dark slide, which is bad. And that happens because the tip of the pick arm is too low. Now, if you check the service manual, somewhere just after the page dedicated to this gear train, there is an image of that pick arm. And the book says like this: shine a torch through the opening, so through the film pack slot, obviously without a film pack, and then look through this cutout, so the round part of the channel of the cutout, and see how that pick arm aligns in respect to the pins, so in respect to the pins that used to be here. Basically, you need to examine the pick arm in relation to the last two pins. You will see the dots of the pins inside, and the diagram shows you what's too high and what's too low. So in essence, I'm gonna make a drawing on the pad. You have something like this is the pick arm as you see it through the hole, and you should see one and another one. These are the two pins, and the diagram shows something that if this is at or below the second pin, it's too low, if something like that. I don't visualize it, and I don't have the manual right here, but as an idea, in my case it was correct, it was just in the picture, but still it didn't work. So what the manual says that you need to do is use tool number something 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 from the Polaroid factory, which we obviously don't have, to go through the hole and adjust the pick arm. Now what that tool is, it's a long thing, like a cylinder, small enough that it can go through this hole, and at the end it has a slit, so it's like snake's tongue, and you go with the slit, you grab the pick arm and you bend it one way or the other to adjust. Where do you bend it? Well, I have no idea. You bend it, it doesn't even matter. I think you need to bend it here, so here, because this is the part of the pick arm that aligns with the hole. So what did I do? Well, I looked around, I found nothing that would fit. I initially thought of some chopsticks. Obviously you can make them more narrow, but I'm a lazy guy. And then the wife, when I explained what I'm trying to do, remembered that she was about to throw away this thingy that measures the pH and the moisture inside soil. So if you want to see how the soil of some, I don't know, plant that you grow in a pot is regarding moisture and acidity, you use one of these. And this thing had two probes. This is one and this was the other one. This one seems to be copper, this one is certainly aluminium. I amputated one and I'm gonna keep it because, well, because it's copper and you never know when you might use some. And besides, it has some wire inside that I'm going to salvage, because you can never have enough small diameter wire, but that's thing for another hour of the night. All right, so I cut one down and then I made this. So I did a slit and also a bevel, because obviously I kind of considered that I would go, so I would go like this, and from my angle it seemed that I was going at an angle, which I was, and therefore I made a little bevel so that this edge would be actually parallel to this. So I went in, got my indie tool on that ledge and slightly adjusted like that, and then got a pack of film, still not good. So basically I did trial and error, bend, test, repeat, bend, test, repeat, and eventually my attempts seemed successful. This one is still not successful. I'm not really sure why. I mean, theoretically it should work straight out of the box, because I did not mess around with this one. I hoped I could demonstrate it on this. But it doesn't matter. I showed you this just so that I could make a point and you would understand what I'm talking about. Right. Let's see if it works or not. All right. And now it should only spit out the dark slide. 4 and 5. Okay. And picture number 1. Picture number 2. So it works. It fucking works. Finally. Which means I can, in theory, concentrate my efforts on the shutter assembly, because that's next. But, because why not? It can never be that easy, right? I have found yet another problem. I don't know if it's of my own doing or not. I will assume that it is my own doing, because apparently I'm an expert in breaking stuff. This part of the metal bottom casing is connected to the rest of the camera by means of some little rivets, plastic rivets obviously. So every time you open and close, now actually when you open it, it's quite stable, but when it's closed, it's not so stable anymore. See, 1, 2, 3. All 3 are broken. This is another one, the 4th, which is not broken. You can see this edge where it was pressed and it squished outside. This one broke today, so that is my fault. These 2, I have no idea. I don't know if they were already broken. I don't know if I broke them when I first opened up this body. I don't know. What I would like to do, but I'll need to check. I can check on this one. Oh, see, 1, 2, 3. This one is broken. This is not. This is not. This is not. Most likely they broke while trying to unhook the boot, so the bellows. This one is also, see. What I can try to do is actually use some screws, and I'm going to test my theory on this one, because those screws will screw inside this frame. Okay, this is the frame where the boot sits. The boot, the Fresnel carrier sits in this cutout, like this, and then the boot sits on this cutout. So if I use some screws here, it should be all right. And I can use something like this. This is a screw for plastic, and it cannot self-tap because it's not supposed to, but I could use a 1.2 drill bit. Obviously, it's a lot nicer if you have a bench stand for the drill, otherwise it will go all the way around. Or if you use maybe the LED con to actually start the hole, that would be even nicer, I suppose. Alright, and if I look on this side, it doesn't go all the way through. The hole does, because I went like a hillbilly. The screw doesn't. I don't know if the protrusion of the screw impedes in any way the sitting of the bottom plate. It shouldn't, because this part here is also embossed. This part is embossed, so that should be okay. And right now it's super steady, it's not moving at all. I don't even need 3. I can use 2 or 2, doesn't matter, as long as the first one is okay. So yeah, this is a possible fix for that problem. Why they didn't use screws from the very beginning? Well, cost reduction, I suppose, but that's kind of bullshit. See, on this side it's fucked up as well. Luckily, I don't need this. Okay. Well, I suppose that's about it for the first part of this video. Yeah, we're 25 minutes in. Or I might just post it as it is and focus on the shutter assembly in the next video, because obviously this series is not going to stop anytime soon. For the shutter assembly, I need to replace or try to replace that ribbon with the broken contacts or contact pads, and also do some basic servicing on the shutter itself. Now, I could use the shutter, the other shutter, so this one, because I don't like to exercise directly on the good one or on the good stuff. So I could use this one to try things out. So I can take this one out. I'll need to unsolder all those little contacts and then remove this. If I don't manage to unsolder them cleanly, then I will probably not replace it, just to be sure, or just to be safe. Then unlike the SX-70, where you have a circlip here on the idler gear, on the SLR 680 you don't have an idler gear. That means that in order to, and not only that you don't have an idler gear, but when you are turning this gear, you are turning this gear, you are turning that gear, you are turning this gear and this gear, because obviously, well, you are turning them now because this is a clutch. So when you push the clutch down, just like in a car, when you push it down, this part is being raised against a spring, and it disconnects all those gears that I was talking about from this. This is the motor that actually turns or autofocuses. When you release the clutch, on the actual camera the clutch is a little flippy switch, not a switch, a flip button, that thing that you, a rocker, something. It's something that you can push in or push out. When you push it in, it will allow you to manual focus, because actually, let me where is it? Okay, so this is the damaged ribbon. Look at the contacts, they are peeling away. So I think I will actually really have to replace them. Actually replace the ribbon. Anyway, so this is the switch. If the switch is in this position, so it doesn't show red, you can't manually focus because you can't get your finger inside there. It has this protection. When you push it down, you see red, and you can get your finger inside and focus it just like a regular SX-70. Okay, so when you push on that button, this thing goes up and disconnects the motor from the gear. When this thing is in up position, so the button is pressed upwards or on the upper side. The motor is connected, the sonar does its thing, and then the motor focuses the lens. Now, in order to, because that was the whole idea, in order to get to the lens, to remove the front element, so you have access in between to clean whatever dust there is, you need to somehow disconnect the actual lens that has these gears, these little teeth, from the idler and from the other idler. So it has two, because obviously this one turns this one turns this one, but, and this is the manual focusing, but this one turns this one that will turn the lens. So basically you need to disconnect both of them. And what I from what I understood in one of Jake's videos, you need to remove this screw, which is a longer screw. Then you need to focus the lens to infinity and do a mark on both the focusing wheel, which has the stops for close and infinity, and on the idler. And then get a screwdriver in between the lower section and the upper section, like this, and pull them apart in order for this to... Oh, something is not like in his videos. I need to recheck the video. It's a bit funky. It's a bit funky. That's one option. Obviously, the other option is to pretty much take apart everything. This. And what else? No, if you take apart this and this and this, then you can turn it until it unscrews, because the only limit is in the focusing wheel. But I'm not going to do that. I will check the optics on this one, which is a bit dusty and hazy. I will clean the front and back lens elements. Is that fungus? Or dirt. And recheck, and if there's no dust in between, or the amount of dust is negligible, then I'll just leave it alone, because I've had too much trouble with this camera to risk blowing it up at this stage. Alright. I'll need to see how I can reach that electric eye and how I can flip this board up. I guess I could reach it by removing this. Bloody screws. They replaced the screws, and these screws are some sort of self-tapping screws. You turn them just a bit and they pop out. Okay, and then I should remove this which is kind of kept in place by two plastic pins, which also means that it can break, and it's probably going to break before I can lift it. And then I should be able to reach the electric eye behind the shutter blades. Nevertheless, we'll see. I will think about it. Cost reduction 101. That's what they did. I think this is what keeps me from Yep, that was keeping me from lifting this board. And if I do, I can see that electric eye, and I can see some corrosion on it, I think, because I'm still not really sure how it's supposed to look. I did look it online, but there isn't much information. But what I can see is like whitish deposits on the surface. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to use some alcohol and nothing happened. Okay, well, anyway, that's a story for a different time. Right now, this is where I'm at. So next time I will do my due diligence and read some more about it, because this assembly is obviously a lot harder to come by than the SX-70 ones, which I have like 2 spares already. But yeah, I'm going to work on the shutter assembly, minor things, and hopefully after that I can actually see the camera working. Now, things that could go wrong or very wrong right now. A major fail on my replacement attempt with the flexi cable, that's one. Issues with the autofocus, like LED something something diode inside gone wrong, which can be replaced. Apparently, thing that the replacement is quite more involving. I'm going to read about it, or actually watch about it on YouTube on his channel, in case it's needed. And that's about it. Other things would be some major user error on my part, which hopefully will not happen. Okay, enough talking. I will see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.